Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Dead Malls, your one-stop shop for malls, retail, and everything in the details. It's been a minute since I've seen you all here, but folks, I just missed making videos for you all, and I missed sharing these places. So we are officially back, and I'm so excited to get back into showing you all these amazing malls. To kick off a new year, I figured it was about time to kick off our next Season 6 road trip. And for the first time ever, it wasn't a road trip? Oh no, for the first time ever, I flew to the Baltimore DC area to capture two breathtaking malls, each in different stages of their lives. And to kick off my short 2-day stay in the Glen Burnies area, I began with the iconic neon paradise that was Marley Station Mall. A mall I've been dying to see for myself ever since I got into the hobby, and boy did it not disappoint. But before I spoil too much of the fun, I'd like to take a moment to shout out our winner who was able to successfully guess the next mall. Very nice job, Lush Time TV. If you'd like to have your chance of being shouted out in the next episode, stick around for the next challenge. Anyways, let's take our Uber to tell the story of and see how Marley Station Mall was doing as of my visit back in March of 2023. Before we head in, I just want to thank you all for your continued support over my short absence. I'm happy to report that my mental health has gotten so much better since you last saw me that I'm finally ready to get these videos back out to you. But enough about me, let's head in under those beautiful flowering trees and tell the story of Marley Station. Walking in, I don't think I've ever seen a more picturesque 80s mall facade. Smooth curves and gray paneling cover this massive 2-story mall. Each entrance is its own neon abode, and around those entrances dozens of flowering trees, which were all raining little white petals into the puddles of a brimming rainy day. Now, immediately upon entering Marley Station, you're hit with this quick sense of, whoa, okay, I'm no longer in 2024. You get the sense that you've gone a little further back in time. Bathed in a glow of cool blue and hot pink neons, Marley Station is that 80s mall, untouched from opening. So see for yourselves as I tell the story just how many bedazzling vaporwave sights you can pick up on. And let's begin our journey into the history of the Music Mall. Marley Station Mall's story begins just about 40 years ago in the glimmering years of the 1980s. Within the southern suburbs of Baltimore, Maryland in the early 80s, mall developers Tomman, well known for their elegant and rather large malls around the country, were in the talks of building a brand new shopping mecca for the suburb of Glen Burnies. A deal would soon be struck between upscale anchor brands Macy's and Hecht's, still at the time their own two separate companies. These two brands were to each construct new 3-story department stores, which would anchor each end of what would be the brand new Marley Station Mall. Squeezed in between the intersection of Maryland Highway 2 and Route 100, the new upscale mall would feature over 150 inline tenants amid its rather janky layout, all lined by a luxurious amount of breathtaking neons, recessed seating areas, and shiny stores. And while these plans looked good on paper, that's all they were. Plans, ideas. In fact, the truth was that Taubman was hitting roadblocks at every corner. Coming up here, you're gonna get to see the center court for the first time. Sort of laid out like a big Dorito, Marley Station's neon-filled center court hosts most of its life. As when I was here this day, the Easter Bunny was offering photos with children. Now, while watching through tonight's episode, you may notice just how many retro 80s storefronts exist within the mall. None of it was ever renovated, so if you do recognize an old storefront and you know what it once was, timestamp it and leave a comment down below. Before anything could be built in the site in 1983, a small liquor store, a few homes, a farm, and a hot dog stand were what existed along the road at the time. Most of them were quick to vacate, offered big sums of money by Taubman. 2 houses would be demolished and the liquor store would soon disappear. But the owners of the hot dog stand and accompanying house would not budge, despite being offered a deal to move into the mall's food court. They declined, and Taubman would end up just building the mall behind the house, obscuring it from the road. A pretty funny sight when you look at it from Google Earth. As we come down towards JCPenney, we get closer to the old Macy's/Boscov's wing, one of the spookiest, vaporwaviest areas I've ever been in a mall. But I don't want to spoil too much of it yet. Before we can actually construct Marley Station in our history, we gotta learn the origins of its name, and what the land the mall sits on was originally used for. A pretty interesting little rabbit hole to dive down. Marley Station Mall, as it would come to be called, gets its name from an adjacent Marley Creek, which runs through the Glen Burnies area. The station part of the name derives from the mall's location on the former Baltimore-Annapolis shoreline, which featured a very small stop for riders at the Marley Station, a train station that was more of just some wooden coverings and platforms. This station would operate through the years when American infrastructure was still largely dependent on railroads. However, the emergence of automobiles and bus travel impeded the B&A short line's growth. On February 5, 1950, the rail line would service its last passengers as B&A moved to a bus line between the cities. The rail did operate as a freight line for a short period, but would ultimately be completely taken out by 1968. This left Marley Station stripped of its train routes, but gave the wooded site a promising future. If anyone happens to know what these 2 checkered tile storefronts would have once been, please let me know down below. I honestly have no clue, but both of them throw off immaculate liminal sights. Honestly, this whole forgotten wing of the mall is deserving of its very own backrooms level. Topman was quick to town, starting construction on the massive mall, as soon they were able to clear out most of the land by 1985. But as if refusing homeowners weren't enough, workers stumbled upon something else. Something much more tragic. As the vaporwave takes us away into that forgotten era of the 80s, I was simply mesmerized by the mall's dozens of neons and geometric shapes. Everything in Marley Station, like every Topman mall, just flows. Now I wonder how long more choices have been coming soon. It's gotta be a lost cause at this point, right? On the 23rd of April, 1985, human remains were found in a trash can dug up from a shallow grave at the mall's construction site. These remains were never able to be identified as they deteriorated so far, and tech in 1985 just wasn't what it is today. In June of 2019, the remains would be re-examined, and they were determined to belong to Roger Kelso, a man who had been missing for 60 years. The last time anyone saw Roger was in 1962, where he told his sister that he was going away for a while, and then he disappeared. The murder to this day remains unsolved, but thanks to modern tech, at least some of the pieces were able to be put together. Construction crews through this persisted, and soon the towering superstructure of Marley Station and its facade began to take shape. We'll go back down that old Macy's wing later on when we get to the lower level, but boy oh boy folks, take a moment to just appreciate the craftsmanship on that JCPenney facade. It truly stands testament to the luxury and grandiose crowds this mall was once supposed to cater to. It wasn't long into construction that other stars began to align, all pointing towards the idea that this upscale mall may not have been a good idea. For instance, upon opening, the mall would only have a portion of its tenant roster filled out at around 80% occupancy, hoping to attract upscale brands as it would begin its life. Something that would never happen. Also, the mall was being built in a blue-collar neighborhood where folks like to shop more at strip centers and budget names like Sears and Walmart. I mean, hell, it was being built less than a mile away from an already well-established Herondale Mall. The citizens weren't necessarily looking for 3-story luxury department stores, but in early '87, it's what they would get as Marley's opening neared. On February 24th, 1987, Marley Station Mall would open its doors to the public, allowing shoppers into its wonderful neon-filled vaporwave paradise. What shoppers found is pretty much exactly what you see today, as the mall was never majorly renovated. Spanned out across 2 levels at 1 million square feet, lie over 120 inline tenants, with Macy's and Hecht's anchoring each end of the mall. The mall in question, of course, lined by a healthy dosage of geometric angles, neons, marble tiling, art sculptures, and planner-filled conversation pits. Brands to open with the mall included Crabtree and Evelyn, Hockey, Ups and Downs, Bailey Banks and Biddle, Godiva, Fanfare, and the Sunshine House, to name just a few. Remember, these were high-end brands, so that's why they all sort of sound like Dr. Seuss book titles. On the lower level lie the mall's food court and movie theater wing, with the theaters owned and operated by everyone's favorite 80s mall movie company, United Artists. The food court itself came to be home to several popular vendors, with notables being Cinnabon, McDonald's, Sbarro, Taco Bell, and A&W. Marley Station upon opening was the mall of the city, driving shoppers from all over the metro to see its grand concourses. However, after the opening hype died down, that ultra-rich, high-end crowd that they are reaching for never really stuck around, and soon some of the luxury brands that did open with the mall would close, being replaced by your more typical regional mall names. While this was kind of disappointing for Tommen, Marley Station would begin to fill back up, and through the 90s, with brands like Sam Goody, KB, Suncoast, Rave, Walden Books, and the Disney Store, it seemed like Marley Station was destined for a bright future, and thus newer and bigger additions were planned for the mall. As we round out the upper level, you may say to yourself, well, I've just about seen all there is to see of Marley Station. But folks, little did I know that during this rainy morning visit, there was a hidden underworld on Marley's lower level, and this mall was just waking up. As we go down the escalators, you'll see what looks like an old rave from the 90s. And that's exactly what it was, but now it's an arcade, which is the coolest and best use of the space. And while the lights are off now, we come back later and explore the soon-to-be open arcade. See if you can spot it. As I gawk at the little hidden details in Marley's lower level, we get to our next bit of history in its timeline. In 1994, the first edition would open as a brand new JCPenney anchor near Macy's. The addition of JCPenney sort of saved Marley Station in those early years, as it was much more in line with what shoppers in the area actually wanted out of a mall. The success would warrant the construction of a brand new Sears as the mall's fourth and final anchor in 1996. Completing the modern layout of Marley Station. Also, consequently, in 1997, the now completely dead and forgotten about Herondale Mall would be demolished and turned into a strip center, solidifying Marley's place in the city as the main mall. The future now for Marley Station, with 4 major anchors and a brimming lineup of name brands, was looking good. Marley Station's website in 2001 paints us a clear picture, telling us exactly what it was like in the mall. And thanks to the Wayback Machine, we can still go back to these better times and imagine what it was once like. Going into a new era of 2000, the neon-filled Marley Station was beginning to show signs that it could fall apart and become the next major dead mall of the area. Just 7 miles away in November of 2000, Arundel Mills would open its doors as the newest shopping destination for the BW Metro, dethroning the once almighty Marley Station as the top mall. And just looking at it from Google Earth, it's clear Arundel Mills was a much better planned mall, being thrown into the center of a brand new thriving retail hub, whereas Marley Station was still smushed into its cozy corner of 2 highways, and not really attracting shoppers. Some of the mall's older, outdated brands would begin to close around this time, and in 2004, Topman would sell the mall oddly to the Mills Corporation, who did little to help the dwindling foot traffic numbers and the dozens of name brands that were closing up shop. In 2006, Federated, who owned the Macy's name, bought Hex and would subsequently move the Macy's name to the old Hex, obviously the much more luxurious Anchor. Not seeing a point of operating 2 of the same stores in the mall, they would sell the pad to Boscovs, who were in their very own rapid expansion. This was, of course, building up towards a catastrophic year. You all know it, but let's enjoy Marley Station for a while before we get to those dark times. Between the 2 neon combos of white and pink and white and blue, which is your favorite? Let me know down below. I think I'm personally more of a white and pink guy. I don't know. Something about that hot pink just strikes so well in the otherwise dim mall. Well, okay, this area specifically doesn't really do me justice on my claim, but you'll see what I'm talking about here eventually. Here we have the mall's sort of hidden theater and food court wing. Actually, I'd say this is just about the most life-filled spot in the entire mall, containing several classic brands and a theater that is still open and sporting those old looks all this time later. So cool. I just wish they would fix some of these broken neons. It's a real shame. In 2008, amid the country's worst recession in ages, Boscov's, in the heat of bankruptcy due to overexpansion, would close their Marley Station store, leaving the monolithic plume of concrete on the north side completely abandoned. It would sit this way throughout a 4-year period of bleak stagnation in the mall. Marley Station around this time would try to paint itself as the Music Mall, a community hub, walling off old storefronts forgotten in the 80s, and you've probably already seen it here from time to time. In early 2012, the old Boscovs would be turned into an AINet data center, so sort of choked off as a mall tenant. This stagnation throughout the years into 2014 would see large portions of the old Boscov's wing gutted of all of its tenants, and turned into a creepy neon ghost town, the very trek we're about to venture. In February of 2014, the movies, now run by Regal, would close without notice, and then reopen the next summer as Horizon Cinemas, with remodeled theater amenities. While these renovations were taking place, AINet were planning big things behind their secluded walls, and were hoping to expand their empire, wanting more of Marley's rotting corpse. As we enter the final stretch of this journey, we begin our jog down the old Boscov's wing. And this was something else. I mean, there's moments in malls that sort of just stick with you. Moments like this, where I was all on my own in this dark vaporwave cathedral. And with the music echoing off of the neon ceilings, this completely abandoned Boscov's wing was to be containing some of the mall's most liminal and otherworldly sights, so it was very deserving of its very own vaporwave melody. Watch out for the rolling giant though, I heard he's been seen to possess some of these lost corridors. Oh, hang on, we're going dark mode. Yes, I admit it, I may have grabbed the exposure bar and pulled it down as far as I could, but honestly, the iPhone camera makes it look way too bright, so this was a lot more accurate to what the mall was actually like. Let's keep going. In early 2013, AINet offered to expand their offerings into old mall stores, offering to buy out large parts of the dying mall. Woodmont, the owners after a defaulted Mills, would reject this, wanting the mall to remain a mall and only seeking new ownership. It would be listed for sale in an online auction that September where, from 2013 and on, with the mall's ownership gets super convoluted as the mall was constantly sold and put back on the market and auctioned off and this and that. And jibber jabber I truly don't fully understand, but in a dumbed down for my sake sense, ultimately ended up in the hands of everyone's favorite Dead Mall hero, GL Baccaris in 2017, who didn't do anything with it other than eventually defaulting on it and giving it to Namdar, who is the mall's current owner. But I guess that brings us up to speed in that sense. Like I said, I don't fully understand that jargon. Anyways, let's get back to the mall's troubled past few years. We've seen just about every corner of Marley Station now, but folks, this was no ragtag road trip. I had 2 days to see 2 malls, so I took my time at Marley Station, soaking up as much of its culture as I could, feeling well acquainted after this visit. We even do some off-road exploring here outside in a little bit, so be sure you don't touch that dial. One of my favorite hidden details amongst Marley's neon facade are those little neon waves above the elevator, which in itself is a common staple. I wanted to get a really cool shot though where the elevator doors would open and I would walk in and take a seamless flight up a story, but part of me also knew it was 50-50 I would awkwardly record somebody coming out. And I was right. In November of 2020, the faltering Sears announced that they would be closing their anchor at Marley Station as a plot to downsize their struggling name. The store would end its 25-year run at the mall on January 24th, 2021, with the nameplate interestingly being left up. Now down to 2 anchors, Marley Station begins to take the shape you see it is in today, the forgotten neon oasis. Namdar promising to be as aggressive in bringing tenants in as possible was, I suppose, doing some work, bringing in a variety of little mom-and-pop pop-up shops, but even these wouldn't really last, as the mall over the past few years has succumbed to a plethora of robberies and shoplifting problems. Name brands over the past few years have since gone extinct, and even the pop-up shops are giving out now. So my guess is really as good as yours. What do you think the future holds for Marley Station? Is it bound to join the same fate as its cousins Glen Burnies and Herondale malls? Personally, I think Namdar is going to do what they always do. They're just going to keep riding this ship into the water, as its dozens of black holes continue to spread on the directory and sink it into the ocean of obscurity. Now hold on folks, the video's not done quite yet. In fact, we have more sights to see yet in Marley, as I wanted to be sure I captured every bit, and got back to that arcade. So I decided why not to take a trek around the mall. During this rainy spring day, which dates back to just around a year at this point, with this footage being filmed in late March, the East Coast was in full bloom, and quite beautiful. So I didn't mind taking a trek around the giant AINet building, previously Boscov's, previously Macy's. After all, I wanted to see more of the mall's classic 80s facade. So I'll leave you for a little bit. As we come around the other side of the mall here, we'll do a little bit of off-roading, a little bit of parking lot exploring, a little bit of everything. Ladies and gentlemen, as we head out on tonight's episode, we'll make a trip back through and see some more cool sights one last time, and I'll roll the credits. But I want to thank you all so much for watching tonight's episode. Getting back into the groove of being productive and making videos has been so refreshing, and I'm so excited to show you all the many more adventures to come. If any of you are ever in the area, be sure to stop in Marley Station, shop the shops, take a lap, and get lost under those neon waves. God knows I was, for hours. If you guys enjoy my Dead Mall videos, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because it helps me out so much and it means the world to me. Also, if you want more, be sure to head over to the Patreon for the coolest exclusive content. Next week, we'll be going live to you from a mall of your choosing, but 2 weeks from now, we'll be back once again to close out our short little BW mall binge with a visit to Marley Station's sister mall, which itself was closing up shop. Guess which mall we'll be at, and I'll shout you out in the next episode. But until then, have yourselves a lovely evening, and peace out, guys. See you later.